small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's been over 50 years since humans set foot on the moon, and our knowledge about the cosmos and our closest neighbor has evolved thanks to new cutting-edge technologies. The moon might look like a simple ball of rock 239,000 miles away from our Earth, but this mysterious ball has inspired myths and superstition for thousands of years. Sometimes the truth about our nearest celestial object can be stranger than fiction, which is why in this video, we'll be taking a look at things you never knew about the moon. Stick to the end to discover some of the moon's best-kept secrets. Number 7. The Blood Moon. Did you know that the moon can go from a white object in the sky to an eerie shade of red under the right conditions? That's what happens during a total lunar eclipse, also called a blood moon because of the reddish tinge. Blood moon is not a scientific term, but the term was coined because the fully eclipsed moon often takes a reddish color. A total lunar eclipse happens when the moon travels through the Earth's umbra and then blocks all the direct sunlight from illuminating the moon's surface. But some sunlight still reaches the lunar surface indirectly, all thanks to its atmosphere, which will then give the moon its signature reddish-yellow color. As the sun's rays pass through the umbra, some colors in the light spectrum, especially those towards the wider spectrum, are filtered out by a phenomenon called Rayleigh scattering. The red component of the sunlight passing through Earth's atmosphere is filtered out and then diverts it into the Earth's shadow, where it illuminates the eclipsed moon, making it appear red or blood color. But if you think that predicting the color of the moon is going to be easy, well, that is far away from the truth. This is because the color of the moon is determined by certain conditions in the Earth's atmosphere. So the exact color of the moon will depend on the amount of dust and clouds in the atmosphere. If there are extra particles in the atmosphere, let's say due to a recent volcanic eruption, the moon will have a darker shade of red. Regardless of the color of the moon, total lunar eclipses are one of the easiest celestial events that you can witness in the night sky, especially if there are favorable cloud-free conditions. Blood moon is also one of the best astronomical events to witness without any equipment, and also the one that is predictable. Number 6. Darker shadows. When the very first astronauts were on the moon, they immediately noticed that the shadows were a lot darker than what they are used to on our planet. This is due to the fact that the moon does not have an atmosphere, but the Earth does. Still confused? Well, the Earth's atmosphere can scatter lights and allow objects not in direct sunlight to still be visible. This is due to an effect called Rayleigh scattering, which was named after the British Nobel-winning physicist Lord Rayleigh. Rayleigh scattering is the reason why the sky is blue. It's also the reason why you could read a magazine perfectly under an umbrella at the beach. On the moon, however, there is no air, which means there won't be any scattering, so the shadows are extremely dark, and the places where the sunlight hits will be extremely bright. The shadowed areas on the moon might be extremely dark. But there is still some light bouncing around due to the reflected light from the lunar surface itself. Number 5. Extreme temperatures. The Earth is located in the habitable region of the solar system, with several factors that can support life, and temperature is one of them. So you might be thinking, that's the case with the moon, right? Well, that is not the case, because unlike temperatures on our planet, the temperatures on the moon are extreme and severe. The exact temperature on the moon will depend upon the location of the sun. When the surface of the moon is well illuminated by the sun, the temperature on the surface can go as high as 127 degrees Celsius, or about 260 degrees Fahrenheit. When the illuminated side moves into darkness, the temperature falls as low as minus 232 degrees Celsius, which is about minus 387 degrees Fahrenheit. Surprisingly, these are also some of the coldest temperatures in our solar system, which means that the surface of the moon becomes colder than Pluto. One reason for such extreme temperatures on the moon is the atmosphere, because the moon simply does not have one. On Earth, sunlight hits the ground and releases radiation. The radiation then moves upward, and it gets trapped by our atmosphere and heats the planet. The atmosphere also diffuses radiation, keeping the Earth from becoming extremely hot. Number 4. Earth's water on the moon. There are water molecules and ice up on the surface of the moon, but you might be thinking, how exactly did it get there in the first place? Well, the most common explanation for this would be asteroid and comet collision, but a new study suggests another source of lunar water, which has its humble origins from the Earth's atmosphere. The hydrogen and oxygen ions escaping from our planet's upper atmosphere will then combine on the moon, which resulted in about 35,000 cubic kilometers, or about 840 cubic miles of surface permafrost, or subsurface liquid water. According to the study, hydrogen and oxygen ions are driven into the lunar surface as the moon passes through the tail of the Earth's magnetosphere. This occurs 5 days in every lunar month. There might be several ways for water to be on the moon, but scientists think that most of the water on the moon might have actually reached the moon through this method. This water is important because water on other bodies other than our own planet can be a valuable resource for explorers to not only drink, but to also serve as fuel for future reporting expression, because water can be split to form rocket fuel, which will then save a lot of expenses that are generally associated with carrying fuel from Earth. Number 3. Two faces. Moon might be the nearest celestial body to the Earth, so it's safe to say that it did get its own fair share of research for centuries. But even today, some of its mysteries are not yet solved. The moon has two faces, a face which is always towards the Earth and the other always backwards. And both of these faces are so different, which confuse so many scientists and astronauts as to why that happened. But a new study has revealed the true reasons for why the moon has two entirely different faces. This is because of an asteroid impact on the moon about 4.3 billion years ago. The study states that the collision was so massive that it changed the appearance of the moon, which then disturbed the balance of two halves of the moon in such a way that the face, which is always visible from Earth, was exposed to the depths of ancient lava flow. The effect of this collision was so huge that it actually reached the mantle of the moon. This collision is considered to be the second largest collision in the solar system, so you know how serious it is. Number 2. The same face. You always get to see the same face of the moon, and for some, it is almost impossible to believe that this could happen by chance. But no, it's just pure physics. For starters, the moon is not just stuck in place with just one side facing us. The moon rotates while it orbits the Earth. It's just that the amount of time the moon takes to complete a revolution on its axis is the same as it takes to circle our planet, which is about 27 days, because of which the same lunar hemisphere always faces the Earth. The time it takes for the moon to rotate once on its axis is somewhat equal to the time it takes for a moon to orbit once around the Earth. This means that you actually see the same side of the moon facing towards the Earth throughout the month. This is called synchronous rotation. Let's say that if the moon did not rotate on its axis at all, or if it rotated at any other rate, then and only then would we be able to see different parts of the moon throughout the month. Number 1. Moon used to be a part of Earth. We might have several origin theories for our closest neighbor. The origin of the moon is usually explained by a massive body striking our planet, which then ended up making a debris ring that was eventually collected into a single natural satellite. But again, there are a number of variations for this giant impact hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that a body called Theia collided with a proto-Earth, creating a large debris ring around Earth, which then resulted in the formation of the moon. The collision also resulted in the 23.5-degree tilted axis of the Earth, which is responsible for seasons on our planet. So according to this theory, what you're seeing during the night sky used to be a part of our planet, and if that is not exciting enough, we don't know what else is. The good news is, NASA is already planning to put humans onto the surface of the moon once again with their Artemis project, which is a human spaceflight program led by NASA to explore the moon, aiming for the first touchdown on the lunar South Pole by at least 2025. If that ends up becoming successful, the Artemis program will perform the very first crewed landing mission ever since Apollo 17 back in 1972, which was the final lunar flight. This means that space exploration is getting a lot more exciting, and we are finally getting a chance to uncover the mysteries of the cosmos, starting with our closest neighbor, the moon. Without the moon, the Earth would be a very different planet. It's the moon's gravity that keeps our planet from wobbling on its axis, which means the moon plays a huge role in stabilizing our planet.